district selection canvas for the elections held on May 5th. I got that right. And it is May 19th, 2026, 1 o'clock. Time to take a look. Let's run. Maybe we should go around and everybody say their name so that we can.
I'm gonna start.
Yeah.
Andy Hunthausen, County Commission.
Katrina Taney, County Superintendent of Schools, under Canvas things.
Tom Rolfe from the commission.
Amy Reeves, Treasurer, Clerk, County Clerk, and Fitzpatrick is our election supervisor. He had to step out for a minute.
Yep, it's gonna be Cloud Harbor with Treasury and elections and everywhere else. And here.
Great, and just a reminder, if anybody has to sign in, they have a sign up sheet there with some actually things will be.
All right, I guess we'll just turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm just gonna read from my normal spill here, and we're just gonna go over things. Today, May 19th, 1 o'clock, we're gathered in room 309 in the City County Building to conduct canvass of May 5th, 2026 special election. Canvass board will consist of County Commissioner Tom Rolfe, County Commissioner Andy Hunthausen, and Assistant Schools Katrina Cheney, filling in for canvass. Also present, which will be here in just a minute, is Connor Fitzpatrick, our election supervisor, and Tammy Harbour from our treasurer, the recorder's office, and Amy Reeves, the election administrator. Anyone else present? If you haven't signed in, please sign in. At the canvass, we'll present the total number of electors voting in each district in the county and the total votes in the county. The name of each individual receiving votes and the office for which the votes were received. The total votes by district for each individual. The total votes in the county for each individual. And the total number of electors voting in each district. This information is provided in the format of the 2026 school budget this district election canvass report, which details the number of registered voters, number of votes cast, number of ballots counted, as well as the election results reports of the tabulator equipment. And we have a detail or a summary, and we have a detail. Approve those. After reviewing the information presented by the elections department, the commission may review any documentation or ask any questions we brought for documentation over there on the blue part. And the commission may then certify the results of the election. So, as long as I have the floor, I'll just go through our 2026 full and special purpose district election canvass report. So this election that was on May 5th also included 2 of our school districts, so you're going to see them on here. We had School District 1 and School District 9. Sorry. And if you need any forms, there's some extra forms there for observers if you'd like to follow along. There's some forms. All right, great. So on this page here, we have our school districts, these are by ballot style, and our special districts are located. On the other side is the entity, so that's going to be listing each of our school districts or our special districts. So when you look at this, I'm going to just kind of explain what we have going on here. We have a total in the first column is our description, and the second column is our total. So those are going to be total number of, whether it's electors, votes, envelopes, whatever we're discussing at the time. And then the next column over is our ELO1, HSO1, that is elementary. School District 1 is, which is a Helena School District. HSO1 is high school for our School District 1. The next column is our high school. The following column is HSO1 CCF. That is our Helena High School, but it also is located in the Canyon Creek Fire area. So that is going to be part of our discussion today. The next column over is our K-12 through 9. That's our East Helena School District. Following that is the LINHS, that is our Lincoln Hospital and Sewer District. And then following that is our hospital district, which is also in Lincoln. The sewer, which is in the next column, is those landowners that are not necessarily a voter in Montana. So they will not be included as an active or registered voter. That's why those numbers are 0. And then the CCF is the same. Those voters are located in the Canyon Creek Fire District, but they are not a registered voter in Montana, but they are a landowner. So they are able to vote. So that is why the zeros are there for a while. So
some of them may be registered voters in Montana, but they're not registered voters in the district in our county. So that's why they get to go through special rigmarole to get a ballot.
Okay, and then the next columns after that again is the entity itself. So we have the Helena School District, the elementary, then we have the Helena High School District, we have the East Helena East Helena School District, then you will see the Canyon Creek Fire Service Area, the Lincoln Hospital, and the Lincoln Sewer. So those last three columns are what we're here today to handle with both entities. All right, so we'll go through. So normally the top part is going to show you what our registered voters are. You will see that we have a total registered voter on the very top line. Below that is left the inactive voters. So the inactive voters could be someone who has moved, passed away, maybe passed away. I think they actually end up, they get moved as a different voter status than inactive. So basically who's moved out of state, out of town, not in our county. And then it's also going to be including those people that haven't voted in a few elections. So those are inactive. The active registered voters, those are the voters that could vote in this election. And if someone else wanted to vote that was inactive, they'd have to be changed to an active voter through the collector. The active registered voters also matches the number of ballots that we've issued. This is a mail ballot election. If those voters did not get one in the mail, they were still able to come to our office and get a mail ballot election ballot for them. So it didn't have to actually be something that we mailed. They can come in person. We would give them the exact same thing that someone who had a mail ballot, the envelopes and everything. So after that, we have the total ballots issued. Again, that is our active registered voters. But not all of those ballots were returned to our office, so you're seeing the sent and not returned. So we had a total of 45,845 that we issued to active voters, but we had only 23,403 that were returned back because the 22,442 were not returned to us. Those are people that, for some reason, either just decided not to vote, or it was possible that it was undeliverable, which we'll go through those things here in just a minute. So the top part here, the first part was our registered voters. The next section, you'll see the lines here. That's going to be our election database. So that's keeping track of all of the voters' information, whether we sent them a ballot, whether they returned the ballot, whether we could accept their signature for that ballot. And of course, right now we have the birth year that we have to accept also. If they don't fill in the birth year, or that they don't sign the ballot, we will contact that voter, whether it's by email, by phone, by letters, whatever information we have that we can contact and we use. All right, and then they do have also until Wednesday, to put up any provisional ballots, meaning that we didn't from them. Sometimes those are signature issues that they come in. Okay, so the next area is our received. And again, we have a land ballot accepted line on here. So you'll see we received 27 of those. 2 of them were the sewer district and 25 of them were Canyon Creek's, their district area. Then below that we have our rejected. So if you have a affirmation envelope that comes back to our office, if it does not have a signature on the back, then again, we tried everything we could to get those voters to come in and fix that problem, get a signature from them, but not everybody was able to come back and clear those up. We had a total of 14 left by the end of the election. And out of that, it doesn't look like we had any in the sewer district. We did have one in the hospital, which also we had one in the Lincoln Hospital sewer. So chances are that is the sewer that is in, possibly it could be located in there. That Lincoln district has 3 different separate areas, or 2, I should say, and then 1 combined.
So then one for the combined ballot style and one for just the hospital style, which lies outside of the sewer district boundaries.
We had 79 signatures that did not match. That did not affect the sewer, the Canyon Creek Fire, or the Lincoln Hospital. So we don't need to worry about that too much. The late for election, we had 359 envelopes that were returned to us by the time we were compiling our data for this. Those are going to be included. Those sent and not returned, a lot of those are end up later coming to us as a late for election or something other, possibly later as time goes and follow whether the post office gives them to us before we have the canvas or not. The next one is our rejected other. That is going to be missing the birth year. And it could also be missing the signature, but definitely we're missing that birth year.
Again, Amy, just so people know, you do everything you can to try and reach out to those folks, say, hey, no signature, please come in and sign it, or the birth date's not, your birth year's not on here, and some comments, some, you know. Yeah.
We do follow the same procedure. The birth year is new, but we follow the exact same procedure if there's no signature. So yes, we are calling them, writing them letters, and possibly emailing them to have that information.
And because the birth year is a new requirement, the Secretary of State's office is actually also making phone calls on behalf of the counties to contact voters on that one. So it's kind of interesting to see them get involved in a school and special district election where they usually leave that to the counties directly.
Thank you. Sorry.
Great. The next one would be our canceled and voided. So if you lost your ballot, if it never reached your home, we would have to void that ballot out, reissue you a new one. So that you're seeing those canceled is going to be probably
Same thing, just your terms for the same thing. Yeah.
okay. And our canceled, would we have any of those voters that were just
Yeah, so if a voter passes away and we receive notification during the election, their ballot would end up in that, I guess, grouping. So then if someone passed away like 2 days after mail out, for example, and we received notification, then that ballot would be voided in order to prevent someone from voting that in their stead.
and we actually are pulling at the very last moment before the mail out ballots, we're pulling all of those people that have moved or passed away to make sure that they don't accidentally receive a ballot to that address. All right, then our undeliverable, those are the ones that came back from the post office. The post office is saying they were not able to find that elector or maybe even that address sometimes.
Yeah. And a lot of myriad of reasons for the post office. And these are just the ones that we received back undeliverable prior to the canvass. I actually just received a ballot for the City of Helena general election back as undeliverable in the mail today. And that election was back in November. So thank you, post office.
Never know.
Talk with the postmaster and go, hey.
All right. So from that is our election database. When the things that are in bold here were all totals, so that process rejected is a total, the landowner's total, the canceled, voided, and undeliverable totals. Process and accepted, so we had a total for this election of 21,000 ballots even that we were able to process from the election database, saying that those signatures were all good and that we could go ahead and count those ballots now. That doesn't always mean that that's going to happen because sometimes we get empty envelopes. Our secrecies don't have a ballot in them. Sometimes they have instructions or checks or goodness knows what else they're going to put in there, sometimes besides their ballot. But we do note all of that. We make sure we track everything. As we get the affirmations back or in our office, and again, this is a new one, we count those in batches of 20. We have where we continually are balancing those batches. We balance them to elect entity and what we've accepted. We scan the barcode, it brings up the voter, and we're able to actually accept that ballot if the signature is matching. From there, and birth year, yes, we have to check both now. Thank you for that reminder. From that point, then it goes to another board. They will balance what is off of our system, off of a report, tell them how many they can catch if they accidentally did not mark them as accepted. And then they're going to separate the secrecies from the affirmation envelopes. And then that is then taken in batches of 20, and there will be some fewer if we don't get that much mail. And they will put them in big mail trays that will become a batch. Those batches are then listed on a white form for the person running that room. They send those out to boards. They count those envelopes to make sure that we'll check with that person, make sure that that number is matching. If it's not, they'll tell them to go recount. We don't give them any clues. We don't want them to assume there's something there. So they have to recount those. They will fill out a green sheet when they count the amount of envelopes, and they're correct. They'll fill in how many envelopes they have to that tray. And then from there, they have the total amount of ballots accepted and rejected. So on that, they should then count after they split the secrecy in the ballots. They should recount the ballots to make sure it actually does equal the envelopes. And if it does not, they should have a reason here why. They should list it. It would say like no signature or the secrecy was empty.
The signature would be earlier in the process.
Oh, sorry, no signature, I meant no ballot.
Yep, no ballot, got you.
And from there, also, they would say contain instructions only. Sometimes people actually give us their bank deposit, so they've had lots of fun with
We got a
this.
check a couple years ago.
If by chance they had an empty secrecy, they would have to reduce the amount of ballots when they counted it because it wouldn't have as many as they did on the envelopes, and then they would put that they had one rejected, and that one would be the reason why. When it comes to tabulation, we want to make sure that we equal the amount of their accepted, and then we would make sure that we listed that, and then we would send some off to the resolution board if they had to verify that the person had overvoted. Sometimes they put a hesitation mark in one of the ovals, vote the second oval, or vote the correct oval, whichever one you wanted. But it looks like 2 and the machine isn't quite sure, so it goes to human eyes so they can verify if it's really an overvote or if it needs to be transcribed onto a new piece so that it can be run through this later. It will also kick them out if they're blank. So nobody was voted. They'd be like, not sure, we better have human eyes look at it. So a team of 3 will look at that to make sure that it definitely is blank. And then if they're unclear marks, a lot of times that could be a variety of things. We've seen food, we've seen coffee, we've seen things I can't identify on the ballot. And just, sometimes things get ripped and from things sticking together, and just sometimes it's just a matter of it's a very light mark, and I just wasn't sure. So they're going to make sure that that unclear ballot is also double checked and make sure that they can tell whether they, from the Secretary of State's, there's a key on how they decide voter intent. If they were to fill out 2 ovals or X one of them and fill in one, so they go off of that key to tell them whether that's a ballot or a vote that we can count towards whichever oval should be. So they're deciding that voter intent with that cheat sheet of all these weird reasons and how someone can
Fun permutations.
make a ballot different than just one oval being voted.
People will find it right.
Yes, if those resolution boards will then get a purple sheet, we will fill out the top, they will fill out the bottom, and then when it comes back to us, it should be on a light purple sheet because they're going to verify, yes, this was an overvote, or yes, this was a blank. They will let us know how many, or if they had to remake that ballot by transcribing it onto a new piece of paper, a new ballot that isn't damaged or doesn't have food on it, or whatever that might be that needs to be done for it. We balance all the purple sheets back to our green sheets. We list how many we had sent to the resolution board, and we make sure that we got those back so that we can make sure that we do not lose the ballots in the process. So with that being said, that's where our next step is. Here are our affirmations. So we have that affirmation team that is separating those secrecy envelopes. So first they're going to count the affirmation envelopes. We had a total of 21,000 we were able to count. And out of the Lincoln Hospital District, we had 152. Out of the hospital district alone, we had 284. Out of the sewer, we had 2. And the Caney Creek Fire landowners was 25. And then back to the Helena High School, the CCF Caney Creek Fire was 165. So those are the main columns we're looking at for this campus. And then right below that is the number of secrecy that they removed the affirmations. So we didn't have any that were missing secrecies. So we had a total of 21,000. Again, those numbers are equaling for each of those districts. The Helena High School, Caney Creek Fire, 165. Lincoln High School Sewer, 152, and the hospital district, 284. Oh, sorry, hospital
Lincoln Hospitals,
Yes, I'm so.
not high school. That was a common,
Yeah, SCHS has been really bad, school district and sewer district. Yeah, we're getting very confused at this point.
Primary is a special district.
Yeah, we've got both elections going on right now, so we're getting a little tight. Our sewer district had the 2, and then our Canyon Creek Fire had 25. And again, those last 2 are landowners. Below that is our secrecy opening. So that is where they're going to open the secrecies, separate the ballots. Again, we started out with 21,000. Over in our Helena High School, Canyon Creek Fire, we had 165. Our Lincoln Hospital Sewer District had 152. The hospital by itself for the Lincoln area was 284. And then the sewer was 2, and then the Canyon Creek Fire was 25. Right below that is a rejected ballot. We had a total of 3 rejected ballots in this election. And even though you're not really probably worried about it, in our ELO1, HSO1, we had 2 of them. One was an empty secrecy, and the other one they signed the ballot. They had an identifying marker, weren't allowed to accept an identifying marker for law. And then you'll also see over in our hospital, or Lincoln Hospital District, we have 1 ballot that also was signed. Again, I included an identifying marker, we were not able to accept it. So in those cases, they were listed on our green sheet as a rejected ballot. And I received 1 less ballot than we had secrecy envelopes, or 2 less, depending on which district within the election. Then below that is our accepted. So we went from our 21,000 down to 20,997. Again, the first column there, the ELO1, HSO1 lost 2, and then our Lincoln Hospital District lost 1 because of those rejections. So we're now at 283. So total accepted for counting by the tabulators was 20,997. And right below that is our tabulation stuff. And you'll see that we also received, accepted 20,997, and that's how many that went through the tabulator. When you look at the HSO1 Canyon Creek Fire, we had 165. The Lincoln Hospital and Sewer District, we had 152. The Lincoln Hospital District, we had 283. The Sewer District being landowners, we had 2, and the Canyon Creek Fire being landowners, we had 25. We had a total of 8 blank ballots in this election, meaning that the voter did not vote any of those ovals, but chose to return their ballot anyway. And so that all was in the LO1, HSO1. We had none in our special districts. And then at the very close to the very bottom, the second from the very bottom, we have our difference. So we had no differences this time in our election. We were able to account for every ballot that went through, which was awesome. And thinking about how many ballots we did with and how many people touched those ballots to get them to us so that we can actually tabulate them. So it's we're very, very excited to see that we came out right on top. And I also included, and we'll go over it too, is we have our ballot statistical statistics ballot style. This is off of our election sheet. This is off of our election database. So that's this area here. That you see that we were able to come in from those, and it went over those rejected. And even though it doesn't help a lot on how this is done, this first column, the I is the issue. The NR is your not returned, and the P is pending, which we didn't have any. I don't remember what RE means. A is accepted. So that column A is all our accepted, and that will match on our process accepted, which is the blue line on your spreadsheet here that we did. And then R is rejected, and that is going to match our process and rejected. And then our V is our voided, which is our canceled and voided, the 518. And the U is the undeliverable of the 1384. So all of those numbers are matching that area.
Yeah.
Yes. They match. And then we have our results from our tabulators. The first 2 pages of the selection, the 2 pages is the summary. Again, these are detailed, and they are detailed by the ballot style, which is up here in the order if you are looking at any of those. But we're going to look at the summary so that we don't have to go through all the detail here. Again, it shows that on the top here, it has our number of registered voters. And I will say that part of the registered voters changed a little bit because when we do our provisionals, we are actually we are in the middle of a primary election too. So people are registering after the school election. So on this report, when we're putting in our provisionals, those are the numbers we have. I left it alone for the canvas as of the numbers that were done through provisionals day. But, through checking the provisionals, so they were corrected.
Oh, okay, so a couple days after.
A couple days after the election.
Yeah, it's real fun when you're doing a primary right after.
People are, and they are, this number of registered voters changes every single day as people are coming in and registering, so.
Or registering other counts.
Or, yes, it can lower.
Could pull from us.
Yeah. So right below that is our ballot count total of the 20,997, which matches the very bottom here of our tabulation of the 20,997. And it shows also the 8 blank ballots that we had. And then you'll see below that you have each of our ballot issues or our candidate races. So the first page here has our Canyon Creek Fire District Trustee. And we have Richard Grady at 52 votes and Randy Williams at 154 for a total of 186. The Canyon Creek Fire District Trustee vote for 2. So this one is a little bit different because when you have vote for 2, the amount of votes that the first and second candidate get is going to be more than electors because they were able to vote for 2. Even though not all of our electors voted. So don't get confused on that. Sometimes that throws everybody off. But we have Peggy Justinson is 112 votes. Ray Miller was 135. So you can see that total votes count came to 247 versus the top race of 186. So it looks a little bit.
And this one's also interesting because it is a 1-year unexpired term for both of these seats due to a resignation, or rather 2 resignations that occurred in May 2025. So lots of fun.
And below that, you'll also see the undervotes here. There's 133 undervotes on this one race that was vote for 2 versus up above the undervotes was only 4. A lot of our voters don't necessarily vote for 2. Some of them, I think, just miss free day. Everybody's used to voting for one candidate, especially like on the federal races. But I'm not sure, but that's probably a little bit of why that's so high. Right below that is our Lincoln sewer district, and we have Daniel Thomas at 68, Nathan Lynch at 72, and Sandra Winters at 93.
This is
Vote for 2.
Vote for 2 race because 2 seats out for a full 4-year term.
And you can see 2 their undervotes are at 75. On the second page, I'm going to skip down to the Lincoln Hospital District. It's to the bottom. And it's a 4 1/10 levy. The 156 for and 179. And then that very last race, even though I didn't say it, is our East Helena School District number 9. They forgot to do that. Required to list it as a district number this weekend.
So next year they'll be including their own school effect. So
Yes.
And the school, reason we're not doing schools, they do their.
They do their own. Yes, they'll be completing their canvas after we complete ours. They have the lists.
I think they're looking at the 20 for both school districts, if I remember right. Either way,
And we provide this information to them so that they have the same information so they can tell them about it. Brought in the information process.
have all the data they should need. If they don't, they know how to get a hold of us.
Do you have any questions for me?
It's really great explanation.
Many hats.
Yeah.
You have a lot of info there.
Well, I really can do without honoring Tammy and the rest of our staff and all our volunteers that help us throughout all of our elections.
So there's a question, approximately how many volunteers we have for this election? How many will we have?
This-
Totally. So the school election being a mail ballot election means that we tend to have fewer folks helping us out. But that's really because we don't have to do things like staff polling places, for example. So even that, I would say, depending on how many ballots are going out, and because school elections typically our largest mail ballot election, and indeed our largest election by ballot volume, we're probably looking at 30 to 45, maybe even 50, depending on how many people can stay and for how long, through prepping for mail out, so assembling ballots for mail out, and then through to the end of election night. With a primary and really any kind of polling place election, that number goes to about 350 to 400, depending on how many people want to do things like a full day at the polling place, or hang out with us all night long on election night. I know I get tired of hanging out with me from time to time, so those folks are extra party with us at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So.
This election, school and special district election, we were here till 4:15 in the morning. And we started counting, I think, at 8 or 9 on election day. Not that it, for me, it didn't seem to matter because I'm waiting for those other processes to happen before I can start tabulating. And we did have some downtime. I believe, if I remember right, they checked 6,000 signatures on election day. So that is where a lot of our holdup is not getting those ballots back in time to start checking the signatures and getting through those processes.
And that was with 6 people working all day doing signature scanning verification. So it's not like we shortchanged that portion of the process either.
Yeah, and we are limited on space, computers, and people that can work on that computer database.
People who want to hang out with us on election night. On that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Well, thank you. And what's our role here?
All right, so
If there are no further questions, then the Canvas board has a few different options available to them. If you'd like, you could review ballots. You could request that we conduct a recount for specific races or all races. You could continue to ask us questions, or could motion to accept the results of the election as presented. So at the same time, there may also be public comment that is sought as well. So just follow the same procedure when you guys are doing a commission meeting. Then you do public comment before or after the motion. I can never quite remember.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
All
right. Is there any public comment? Go ahead.
Wendy Adamson, Canyon Creek. I just want to comment that very, very proud of Canyon Creek voters stepping up their turnaround rate and the landowners coming in. It's an initiative that we put out there and it's really kind of paying off. And so I just want to put on the record, I'm really proud of Canyon Creek. So thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move we accept the results of the election and sign the certificates to ratify that.
Not second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it was pretty simple for us and a pretty short process that we know and recognize.
Pretty thorough.
At least I know and recognize that there's a lot of work that has gone into this point. So just thank you for all the good work.
After folks retired, they can come hang out with us all out there.
Yeah. All right. We got a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. We'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the results as presented to us, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
If we
I'm gonna wait.
What's that? No objections. Yes, that.
And that's Connor was saying, and plugging, they were always looking for a economic vote to help get.
Especially on election night, if I didn't, not.
A lot of us that have worked all day, all night, the next morning, the next afternoon, get pretty running.
I'm pretty sure the last time I ate at Bert and Ernie's before they closed was one of those days shortly after an election. And I do not remember what I had. I assume it was good, but being one of my favorite restaurants, I'm a little sad that that's how I spent my last time eating.
You start to be students all over again for the primary.
About a month, actually, yeah.
Yeah, we only have to do more elections.
Is there any other business meeting? More, if there's nothing, we need to ask for general public comment about other matters related to us. Yes, ma'am.
I do got one small, I think that,
Everybody just give your name.
oh, sorry, Connie Horder, Canyon Creek. It was just about the vote for two, and we've had a little discussion about that, but if there was a way to word it differently, I got quite a few calls from people that were smart enough to vote properly, but must not have paid enough attention, and didn't know, they didn't know if they were supposed to vote for two or vote for one. They were confused. So if there's a different wording that we can somehow get on there, so people really know what they're doing, it would help. I mean, it seems obvious, but
It's like teaching me so. Vote two.
Yeah, it does say on the ballot, vote for up to two.
yeah, it does.
So you have the option to leave it blank or you just want.
And that's where they get confused.
And it doesn't help that there are only two people to vote for and for the Canyon Creek race. So yeah, there's the good brainstorm going on my side to kind of think, okay, how could we do that? Because this is a local election, so we have a little bit more local control over what the ballot looks like versus, say, a federal election. So yeah, definitely something kicking around in that. I'll see what
Any other public comment?
Well, I was just gonna say, I was in Augusta last week and they had a school election that passed. And I guess they conducted that themselves.
They do, yes.
Yes,
But anyway,
they do.
you could tell they were pretty proud that they passed. So there's all stuff.
We do work with them to let them know the registered voters and.
Yeah, give them the materials they need. Yeah, then they conduct it themselves. And Lincoln does as well, but Lincoln School District didn't have a competitive election this year. Otherwise, we would have looked at deputizing the school district clerk to conduct the two Lincoln elections as well as happened in 2016. So, yeah, it just means that we've got to do a little bit more work for the Lincoln area this year, and with the recall coming up, work's not done yet apparently. So here we go.
Which is also another thing, we have school districts that are allowed, to borrow our ADA machines, our express votes, so that voters in their area can vote if they need to. And that is another reason why we want to make sure that our districts include in the resolution who they are, because we have that for various districts, even if we don't hold their election. It does still show up on the express votes. We want to make sure that somebody doesn't click into that and say, well, it's the Augusta levy I'm voting for. So we want to make sure that they identify. Plus, we want the voter to know what they're very helpful.
Any other public comment? Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Being over at other business, for sure.
Did you do anything?